husband, who took a job as a forester up here. We have one little girl enjoying life in the warm weather while my parents are enjoying some really cold weather up there. But yeah, that's me. I went to the University of Wisconsin. I have my master's in human resources and student affairs. So I actually teach business here at BIPC as well. I teach 2 classes, human resource management as well as organizational behavior. So maybe I'll see some of you in my class. Communication etiquette is what I was asked to kind of talk about today. So what I kind of want to start out with is, if you want to go to the first slide. What is communication? What is it?
I know.
There we go.
It wasn't doing it.
Definition. This is the wordy Webster actual definition. That's up here. Really, generally, communication, it's dialogue. It's talking to somebody. But it's not just talking to somebody. There's so many different ways we communicate, no matter what the language. Body language, nonverbal versus verbal communication, how we communicate, whether it be in person, via text message, through social media, which I know is a hot button that we will definitely get to, be it through email, be it in person, be it on the telephone. There's so many different ways that you communicate. Can you guys think of any that I didn't mention that you communicate with people?
Just by looking,
Just by
have to say a word.
Exactly. Exactly. When you see a student or when you see a teacher or anything, roll your eyes or anything. What does that say to you? That's communication. They're saying something to you. But how you take that communication and what you're actually trying to get with that communication are 2 different things. So it's just how it's received as well. It's a message. Communication is a way of giving and receiving a message. Okay, so listening and hearing, which are ample parts. You can go to the next one. Ample parts of communication. They're different things. What's the difference? What's hearing?
It's the act of the sound coming in.
Exactly. Hearing is an ability. It's an ability. You either hear or you don't hear. It's an ability. Listening takes work. It's something you learn. It's not something you're inherently born with. It's something you actually have to work on to be able to do. When somebody tells me, or if I hear my husband say this mostly, I heard you, I get it. That's actually kind of insulting if you think about it in certain contexts. You may have heard me, but were you actually listening? Did you actually listen to what I said? Do you understand? Do you comprehend? That's what listening is, ultimately. That's just my little spiel on what effective listening is versus non-effective listening. Non-effective listening is not paying attention. Effective listening is paying attention. That's it. So I kind of want to go over some of my tips. They're just generic, really general tips, but we can dive into a few fun stories. And if at any point you guys have some stories about times when you talk to a student or you talk to one of your teachers, or if you talk to somebody you work with or a potential employer and you have a story, I want to hear that too. Because everybody else needs to hear that too, because they're examples of things you may experience later. So just my first tip.
Okay.
Can we go to the next one? It's really simple. Pay attention. So just pay attention to me. It means a lot of things. Make the speaker feel heard and understood. When somebody's talking to you, how do you know that you're being understood? How do you know that you're actually being heard? Eye contact. Exactly.
To be attentive to what you're saying, you know, and you can give feedback. Most of the time they give feedback if it's possible, and that lets you know they understand what you're saying.
Exactly. Creating dialogue back and forth, asking and answering questions, actually having that feedback back and forth, you feel like you're being understood. Or even just simply hearing, I understand, is usually appreciated. It's a simple phrase, but a lot of times you don't say that. But just feeling heard and understood. Ask questions if you're talking about that to ensure understanding. Creating that dialogue, asking questions. If you really don't get it, don't Don't just give up. Don't just say, I don't get it.
Mhm.
Follow up. Figure out what you didn't understand.
A lot of times you can repeat, did I understand you to say this?
I encourage my students to say it back
Make
to
sure,
them.
yeah, that you.
Exactly.
Evidence that you heard.
Exactly. And that kind of follows, that's a good follow-up to the next one. Try to actually picture what the speaker is saying and put it in your own words. If you can repeat it, not word for word, but if you can repeat it in words where you understand it better, you understand, you get it, you were listening. And then if your teacher says, yeah, that's right, exactly, that's what I was saying, that's even more assurance to you.
Just an interesting tidbit on the eye contact thing, because I teach a thing on cultural diversity with my students too. Not all cultures are big on the eye contact thing. That's a very American thing.
That's
There are
very
some
true.
cultures where direct eye contact is very threatening and abrasive and aggressive.
That's
So if
very
if
true.
you're interacting with a student, or I tell my students, if you're interacting with a patient who is of a cultural background that does not have good feelings about direct eye contact.
That's very
you have to
true.
come back off of that.
That's very true. That's very true. I think you'll get that a lot when people talk with their hands, which I do. You'll find me doing this a lot, because that openness is also a very American thing, or closeness, or furtherness, or distance from people. That depends on your culture as well. Don't waste time writing every single word your teacher said down. It's just a waste of time because you're not grasping. You're hearing, but you're not listening. Again, stay off your phone in class. You get that. You understand what that means. Just stay off your phone. If you know you're getting an emergency call, if your wife's about to go in labor, or your husband's on the job and something's important about it, or your kid is sick and you don't know what's going to happen, just let your instructor know. Or tell your kids to let you know if there's an emergency. Or tell your boss if you have to run out of a meeting that I have this going on, but then leave to take the call. Don't take the call in front of everybody. That's just bad. I have students that do that at my desk all the time. It just doesn't set the best impression. It never does.
Abby,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, go back.
Go back?
We're still, yeah, we're still kind of going over some of this stuff. Oh, I'll cue you.
Mhm.
Stay off your phone in class. That means texting too. This is not paying attention. This is not listening. This is hilarious to me because students think that they're being sneaky when they're doing it. It's not sneaky. I get what you're doing. You're Facebooking. You're checking on so-and-so's new boyfriend or new single status, or wondering what they're doing, or you're texting your brother, whatever you're doing, but it's obvious what you're doing. When your head's down and your fingers are going like this, your phone is not hidden. Sit up in your desk in class and keep your head up. Physically, your posture will affect how you stay awake. You don't sleep at night like this. You sleep at night like this. Comfortable, whatever position it be. But physically, your posture will affect your awareness in class. That's why they always tell you to sit up and pay attention. But let's kind of pay attention. Does anybody want to add anything to this, or have any insights, or anything that they think would be beneficial? No? Yeah.
I think even trying some of those behaviors outside of the classroom, just even in your personal life, whenever I'm checking out of the supermarket or something, and say someone calls me, when I greet the cashier or she or he greets me, I get off my phone. I said, let me call you right back, you know.
Yeah.
And recently I had someone in Kroger's tell me, oh, it's fine, I can, the cashier said, no, it's fine. I said, no, that's rude. You shouldn't allow people to stand. I know that they have to be polite.
Exactly.
But if you get in that habit of even trying to do that in your personal life, it becomes a lot easier when you're talking with an instructor and you know that, this is a professional setting.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think making it a habit, not just in the classroom.
And it's one of those things you mentioned, you said use different language, but when I talk to my student, I talk about perception versus intention. So you may not intend to be acting in a rude manner,
Exactly.
but it's going to be perceived that way. So you want that, you don't realize how what signal that's sending, that you're not important, this is important.
Exactly.
Talk to the hand.
Exactly. And I always say you can only make the first impression once. And if that's the first time you're meeting that person, they're gonna think you don't care. That could be a future employer. That could be a reference to a job one day. A lot of your teachers are gonna have to be references for you someday. So it is what it is. Let's go to the next one. Okay, consider nonverbal and written communication. So, read your syllabus. That is written communication from your instructor. That's them telling you everything on this is important because it sets the tone for the rest of the class. I hear so many students say, oh, the first day we don't do anything anyway. We don't talk about anything. We just go over this. The first day is so important in class, or the first day at work is so important because that is going to set the tone for the rest of the semester. Your teacher's going to go over all those assignments. They're going to tell you what is expected in that class. If you miss that day and you come the second day and you don't even know what you need to do, you're going to have a problem for the rest of the class. Day one is important. It's very important. Arguably one of the most important days, besides showing up for your final exam, obviously, and all that other stuff in the middle. Email etiquette. One, if you're here at BIPSI and you're a BIPSI student, use your BIPSI student email. That's a no-brainer. You have to use your BIPSI student email. Some teachers will allow you to use your outside email, but etiquette would provide that you use your student email when contacting your instructors. You should also check that because that's your instructor's way of contacting you. So you
Especially if your personal email address is like Red Hot Mama. It's really wild.
I get high school girls email. I love Bobby forever at gmail.com, or some I'm not even going to repeat because it's on camera, so we don't need to go over any of those, but it's fascinating, or Pokemon for life, for any of that stuff. If you do have an outside email in a professional setting and in the workplace later, just make sure it's a professional sounding email. Hot Mama Forever is not a professional sounding email. Abby.Benzinger. First name, last name. And a number if you have to. If your name is John Smith, I don't care. But something simple, something to the point, and something that provides that this is the person I'm actually emailing. I got an email from a student. I'm going to share this just because I think it's funny, but it's also sad in certain ways. If you want to go to the next one, this is how to not email your instructors.
Oh,
Click on the slide.
Yeah. There you go.
there. Okay.
Hey, this is Abby. I was emailing you, because I'm the small sheep, to see if it'd be okay if I come to see you tomorrow. ? I promise you this is a real email that I got from a student. I swear on my child, it is a real email. The only reason I knew who this student was because I had their application and I was able to figure out their personal email for whom this student was. They didn't even put a name at the bottom of it. First impression. You can only make it once. You're emailing a college. The college that you want to attend and go to. You didn't pay attention to English. What could you assume about this? You don't want to make assumptions. You don't want to make judgments, obviously.
First thing I would assume is that something went wrong in his English class.
You would assume that. To me, they don't care.
That's just text.
That's text talk. Don't text talk in an email. Do not. Email and texting are two different things. They're two different things. I don't even like when people text talk and text messages. You sound understand it half the time. You sound like a more intelligent person if you actually spell out TWO or SEE instead of just a letter. You just sound like a better person. So I emailed her back. And I said I would be happy to meet with you. Let's meet right after you take your placement test. It's offered at, I don't even remember what time, and I will see you immediately afterwards. I will be waiting for you. She never showed up. But she emailed me later that night.
same time?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I thought it was at 1 tomorrow. Also, but I had to look this up in Urban Dictionary, but I think I may make it by 5:30.
Oh,
Mhm.
but I.
But I. Yeah, I had Urban Dictionary. That one took me a little while. She did show up that night. She took her placement test. It was one of the later placement tests that night. And I did have a conversation with her about this. Because I want her to look better. She was a nursing student.
She had aspirations.
She had aspirations. She had a declared major of nursing.
Well, we get, I mean, even for clinical programs, I occasionally get emails, not like that bad, but.
And I promise you, this is real. I did not make this up. I cannot make this up.
And I'm going to be the person reviewing your application packet.
Exactly.
And you're sending me communication. No misconceptions.
And that's
no
such a
name
good
at the
point.
bottom.
That's such a
You
good
don't know
point.
who's receiving that email and what role they'll play in deciding.
Absolutely. Have an opening and a closing. I don't care if it's a reply email, have an opening and a closing. It just makes you look so much better, so much more professional. And then when it does come that time to apply for those clinicals and these people are reviewing it, or you're going for that big job and you just had your first interview and you're hoping after that thank you note you just sent and spent that extra time doing that, even if it's just in an email, that they're going to consider you, they're going to look at your etiquette with the email that you sent them. It's going to go.
First impressions.
First impressions. Telephone etiquette. I had a student. I teach online classes. I do provide my cell phone to students, but I have very strict rules on it. 8 p.m. emergencies only, and I say what emergencies constitute in my syllabus. And no text messaging. I had a student call me at 10:30 at night the other day during the time change because they were confused. Read your syllabus. And when you call somebody, don't assume immediately that they're available. If they pick up, that's great. I did not pick up at 10:30 at night. I was fast asleep. I have a 1.5-year-old baby at home. If she's in bed by 8, I'm in bed by 8:30. But when I got the message the next day, and she had sent a follow-up email as well, just saying she couldn't get her quiz. Just not an emergency. She had said that she had called right at 8. She just had time stamps. Don't lie. That's a bad impression too. Don't lie. But just be respectful of their time. And if they do pick up, don't immediately assume, like you were saying, that they have time to get to an in-depth conversation with you. Ask if they have time. Do you have a minute right now just to chat about that last quiz? Can I ask you a question? Can we discuss this? Is there a better time? That's just respecting people's time, not just your teachers. Anybody you know, coworkers, anything. Is there a better time to talk about this? Especially if it's a difficult subject. That's just telephone etiquette. Social media. What's everybody's favorite social media site? Facebook. I have a funny story about Facebook in a second.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Pinterest. I'm a Pinterest junkie. Anything else? LinkedIn is the professional one. Professional, depending on what people put up there. I mean, there's so many of them. Google. How many of you have Googled yourself before? You ever Googled yourself? Unless your name's like John Smith, it's really fun to do. Go and do it. I found a picture of myself from high school French club with this crazy perm, and I forgot I had it from junior high. I was in like 8th grade. It's hilarious. But just Google yourself. It's hilarious. But I guarantee you your employers will also Google you. Your teachers may not, but those people that are looking at clinicals.
One of the reasons we added a social media policy in our program was because we had a student on clinical rotation. She had an unusual name, and in clinic they wear their badge.
Yeah.
She had a patient who had some psychiatric issues that likened to her and Googled her and there was a MySpace that she thought she'd gotten rid of years ago that he went to that was wide open. Her privacy settings were wide open. So he showed up the next day describing how pretty she was when she was the prom queen or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and what her parents' house looked like, and that he thought he might know her growth. You know, he knew a lot of information about her.
Yeah.
Scared her to death.
Yeah.
And rightly so. And on the heels of that, there was another incident too that prompted us to add that policy.
Yeah.
Privacy settings is one of the initial conversations we have with our students.
And you have to if you're going to use that because you don't have full control over what's on your social media page. People can post stuff on that. People can post stuff on your behalf and just attach your name, put you in a picture. You put a thing on there that says you have to approve everything with your name. You can set an individual settings for people. And here's the other thing, and we were talking about this before everybody came in. You don't have to be Facebook friends with a person to be their friend. That being said, some people put some stuff on their Facebook that maybe you don't necessarily want your name associated with. They're a great person. You want to hang out with them on Friday night, but you don't want to see what they did Friday night later after you hung out with them. And you don't want all your coworkers to see that if you're friends with your coworkers. But just choose your friends wisely. And if you're going to choose to be Facebook friends, make sure you have the privacy settings, or Twitter or whatever. Just be careful because, like I said, you don't have a whole lot of control over what goes over that sometimes.
This generation that's growing up with everything being so public,
Uh-huh.
so out there, they don't see the problem with that.
Yeah, I have in my class the second project they have to do. I actually make them go through and do a Facebook analysis of one of their friends with their permission, and they don't have to say names, obviously, and say whether or not they would hire them for a position. I give them this position, say whether or not they would hire them based off their education and what they put on there and all of this. They have to do a full analysis. And at the end, I say, if you were an employer, would you use this? Would you use this as a tool for hiring people? And most of them say no. I think it's invasive. I think it's rude. In ways it is. It's invasive, but you chose to put that information up there. It was your choice to join Facebook, to join all these. And I'm not saying it's bad to. I have a Facebook account. I don't have Twitter because I don't understand it. But I have a Facebook account. And honestly, my family is all the way up north. That's how they see pictures of my daughter. That's how I interact with them sometimes, especially my cousins. I don't see that often. But just know that your in-person life and social media life can hit ahead someday. So don't let that negatively affect you if you can. Actually, my husband's cousin, she's 11. I was home last Thanksgiving, and she was talking about how her parents had Facebook, and she just joined Facebook, and she's finally old enough to do it. And I said, oh, I'll have to friend request you. You can see some pictures of my daughter, Maddie. And she's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be on there that long. Facebook's really just for old people now. So that being said, I don't know how much longer it's going to be around. I'm sure the news I don't come out soon enough. I had one of my classes tell me Tumblr's the new big thing now or something, but I don't even know what that is. But just be careful with social media. And if you haven't Googled yourself, do it. It's fun. It's hilarious. See what images pop up for you that you don't even have control of sometimes. A lot of times it's pictures of other people you might know. When you Google yourself, I found pictures of my brother, my whole wedding party from the wedding website we had. But it's interesting. It is, but it is. Just do it. Because I guarantee you, someday, something's going to do it. And last, consider the tone of a voice when talking about nonverbal written communication. Consider the tone of voice when addressing someone or asking a question. What you say and how you say it are two different things. Don't go into conversation angry. I know you've heard this before. If you just took a test and immediately after you're like, I know I just bombed this test, I know it didn't go well, and you go in and you immediately address it, I don't know if you're going to go in angry, crying, upset. That's not the best time. That's also not the best time to choose to withdraw from a class. take a day and a breath. If you have a bad day in rotations or anything like that, just take a day. And I'm sure you guys get a lot of stressed out students coming up to the learning center and everything like that too. But just consider the tone of your voice. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, manage your stress. Take notes while you're listening. Our generation, so usually 30 under, I'm almost there, but our generation are master multitaskers. We're really good at it. Be it good or bad. I've seen studies where multitasking actually makes you more efficient, and I've seen it where it makes you completely inefficient because you can't finish anything. Just depends on how you handle it. In a classroom or on a job, in classes that I've instructed or worked in, I've seen students doodle. How many of you are doodlers, like avid doodlers, or like color, or sit there and draw things in? Yeah. If a student doodles in my class, that's fine. I don't care if they're still paying attention. If I come back and actually talk to them and they tell me exactly what we talked about, then that's fine. Because sometimes your mind works like that. You have to do something else in order to actually be listening. Like I said, the studies go both ways. But generational studies will tell you that the current millennial generation are the multitaskers. So they have to be doing more than one, but they're less likely to actually finish something. Whereas older generations are more likely to finish things, but concentrate on one thing at a time. So it just depends. So if you're taking notes while you're listening, make sure that you can handle that. You need to listen and then take notes afterwards. Just figure out which way is most effective for you and your learning style. Before addressing a frustrating situation, we kind of touched on this before. Take a breath and consider all angles. You think you just failed that test. I'm sorry. You know you just failed that test. Did you? Is it graded on a curve? Is your teacher going to take anything into consideration? Is there extra credit going to be offered later? There's always options, and there's always a conversation that can follow that if you choose to have that conversation. Just make sure that you're not going in angry. And be willing to compromise. When I say that, don't assume if you have a D at the end of the semester that your teacher's going to give you extra credit. You're going to know from the beginning of that class, hopefully, how you're doing. If you keep up with your work and you know what your grades are and you can keep track of that, you should know before the end of the semester whether or not you need a little extra credit. And don't ignore any of the extra credit that's offered at the beginning. Just don't ask for extra credit at the end of the semester. It just doesn't look good, and your teacher doesn't really appreciate it ever either. Let's go to the next one. Keep an open mind. I like this quote on the bottom. An open mind leaves a chance for someone to drop a little worthwhile thought into it. Don't be quick to judge. Let's say somebody says something in class. You're sitting in front of this person in class and they say something. Your mind immediately goes, why did they say that? That doesn't make sense. Why did they say that? Were they right? Were they wrong? Should I have thought of that too? Should I be writing this down? I don't really know. What should I have for dinner tonight? Wonder if my husband's going to make it. Maybe he'll do dishes if I make it. So what just happened in the last 5 minutes of class? You have no idea. You have no idea. Because you get involved. So don't be quick to judge one thing, because it'll take your mind in completely different places. And I'm guilty of that. Yeah, it helps you. You're not able to focus. Now, when I say don't be quick to judge, you remember those emails I showed you? That girl came in at 5:30 and she took that placement test. She tested out of every single one of her developmental classes and never had to take a single one. We had a conversation. She's had all straight A's in 1 week. I shouldn't have made that judgment. I'm guilty of it, but that was the impression she set. So, it's a learning curve along the way, but it's interesting. Until somebody actually tells you, don't do that, because that doesn't look good. So be the person to tell them. Don't interrupt and wait for your instructor to complete their points before following up. Let your instructor finish their thoughts. Let the person that's speaking to you, whether it's not your instructor or not, let your boss, let your coworker, whoever it is, finish their thoughts before you interrupt and try to interject. Some people are really good at figuring out that cue, and some people aren't because of pauses and this and that. Just do your best. I have what's called a 5-minute rule. If after 5 minutes, your teacher is still on that same point and finishing it, and then they pause, that's a good time to interject and ask that question that you have. And if you don't have your question answered, or if you haven't fully understood and grasped it after 5 minutes again, you wait till after class to have that conversation, because at that point you're using too much class time. So just use the 5-minute rule or 3-minute rule, whatever you feel is appropriate. Nothing more than 5 minutes is appropriate. Go to the next one. And just kind of some final thoughts, ideas, and then running short on time.
Yep.
So take every opportunity to put yourself in the best light possible. You never know when you're going to make a first impression. And I know you've heard that before. You never know when you're going to make a first impression. I met many of you today. I hope I made an okay impression on you. I've seen a few of you around and we've worked together a little bit, but none of us, or some of us, haven't had a full conversation. So you never know when you're going to make a first impression on somebody. So put yourself in the best light possible. And written communication and social media use and what you put in a text message is editable. Sometimes what you say isn't always editable. So the fact that you can edit that, use that to your advantage. On the next page is just some general stuff, some replacement phrases. And you don't have to change slides yet. This is just, yeah. I don't get it. That's a giving up phrase. That's saying I quit, I give up, I don't get it. Instead of saying that, choose to say, I don't understand blank. What don't you understand? Because that way we can get to something. If you're not even sure what you understand, then go over the context. Try to go over it again in your head. I kind of put the 5-minute rule thing in there again, but see if it can be explained in a different way for you. But saying, I don't get it, is I give up. It's the same thing. And the second one, well, nobody told me that. Yes, we did. First of all, read your syllabus. Be proactive with your education. It's your education. It's nobody's education that you're getting. It's your education. So make the choice to be proactive. Even if nobody told you that, learn it for yourself. Find out too much information. You work in financial aid, right? Yes. Be proactive with your education. Find out as much information about financial aid at the beginning, because you never know what you don't know yet. Learn about the TLC from the beginning. Learn about what it takes to get into clinicals, everything.
We have students that they'll just show up one day and not have ever met with an advisor, not have ever looked at the website to look what the requirements are, be dumbfounded that there's a process for applying to get into clinicals, or what do you mean I have to do these extra steps? And nobody told me that. I hear that all the time.
And every semester,
That's why it's on the website, because we cannot track every person down on campus and drag them into our office.
you wish you could, but
It's on the website.
exactly. Just don't say, well, nobody told me that. Be proactive. Was that due today? Read your syllabus. Just read your syllabus. Go to class. If a due date changes, go to class. Go on your Blackboard, whatever it is, whatever the setting or format of your class is. Know what the primary form of communication is with that teacher, via email, in person. You'll know if that is due today or not. And why did you give me that grade? We don't give grades. We try not to give grades. If you don't give grades, you earn a grade. What you do in class dictates the grade that you get. How you do in that class dictates that grade. What can I do to earn a higher grade? What can I change Or can I take your education as your responsibility and be careful with the words that you choose? And at the bottom is just a fun little cartoon. Makes you laugh. You want to go to the next one? According to the article I wrote for Wikipedia, I'm destined to be one of the smartest men in the world. So you should probably just start giving me some better grades. So that's kind of some communication etiquette tips that I have and experiences that I've had. Is there anything else that anyone would like to interject or add? This is me taking a pause. If you have any ideas that you'd like to share, I'm sure everyone else would like to hear it and be happy to.
This was very informative.
Good.
And I just feel like it's something that you learn at home, you know?
You do.
And I think us being professionals reinforce that energy.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just need to hear it. Sometimes it's common sense. Communication etiquette, we were talking about this before, it's common sense. But not everyone learns all of the common sense language. So being the person to help them learn that, or help them make an adjustment or give that suggestion in a kind way, can only help them in the future.
I do a PowerPoint with my students before I send them out to clinic.
Yeah.
One of the criteria they're graded on in clinic is, are they professional? Do they have good interpersonal communication? It's all these affective skills. And if you just ask them, are you responsible? Are you professional? Of course, I'm responsible. Of course. Professional. But in the PowerPoint, I said, well, here are the actual objective behaviors, observable objective behaviors that in a
That's
classroom
great.
setting would make your teacher think that you're responsible.
That's
and professional.
great.
And here in a clinical environment are the actual objectives. So you can say I'm professional, but have you ever done these, and are you doing these? And then it's funny to see, oh, they turn around and point at people. Is there something about you? Or, oh,
That's really great that you actually
it helps,
label what it
helps
is.
because
Yeah.
an instructor can only base that judgment on
Yep.
what they've observed, or the
And it
actual
gives them a
objective
measurable
behaviors.
rubric to actually go off and determine what I need to do. Because maybe they don't know what that is. That's great. I'm happy to do that. That's awesome. Does anybody else have anything else? Yeah.
I think every college student here needs to come and attend
Oh,
this. Because I just had to kind of get with a young man in one of my classes because he doesn't keep up with his work.
Yeah.
And I said, baby, I had to sit him down like I do my boys. I said, come here, come. And I said, this is why the instructors give us this syllabus every beginning of school. This is your guideline. This tells you what's gonna be due. I said, you got your date and when it's due.
Yeah.
I had to sit actually, and he was like, oh, I'm like, wait a minute, you didn't know? So I just had to sit him down and just tell him.
Sometimes you just need to lay it out.
Yeah, and I laid it out. I said, come, I had to treat him like one of my boys. Come on, let me and show him that this is what they give you this for a reason. And this is what, this is your guideline to tell you what's due this day, and that's how you keep up with it. So I think every college student that attends needs to come to this.
Thank you.
They need to come hear this. Because when you got on the syllabus one, I'm like, oh yeah.
It's your Bible.
No,
It's your Bible for the life.
Exactly.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody for coming today. I really appreciate it. If it wasn't new information, I'm okay with that. If it's a refresher, that's great. Because if it's something that you can go back and say, yeah, well, I should have seen this one email I saw, or anything like that, that's fine. I just hope you were able to get some good information out of it. And I appreciate all of you taking the time to come.
It did. Enlightened.